It's defenders Brahmas, the spread favoring DC by 6. Total's a nudge higher than our Saturday games at 44.5. And the forecast is really whatever Wade Phillips wants to set the thermostat at when he becomes the first guy in the building. He'll probably be there at 4 a.m. knowing Coach Wade. So looking at this one, a fresh start of sorts for OC Fred Keiss and quarterback Jordan Ta'amu. Not a single starter back across any of the skill positions outside of quarterback. So the heartbreaking news for DC fans and this team was the loss of Abram Smith to a torn ACL in camp. Really just speechless on the effect that will have. And really DC also having to replace Lucky Jackson, Chris Blair, and Josh Hammond, who were their top 3 receivers in this scheme last year. But guys, this is what happens when you're the best, when you're the standard, when you're Von Hutchins putting this roster together. You are going to see turnover. You're going to have guys picked up in the NFL. A lot of you Battlehawk fans, you're yelling cacaw at me, telling me, look at all the NFL guys we got. Well, I'm pretty sure you have your wide receiver 1 and 2 back. Must be nice. Can't relate. Our guys are on to the NFL. Shout out to Lucky and Chris doing their thing. Wish we had them back, but we instead focus on who are the prime candidates to replace those guys. My front runner for wide receiver 1 in DC this year is a guy who also made the all-name team in the UFL, and that is Kiki QT. Can't wait to say that one in the highlight show. And he's a Texas Tech product, so he got a ton of targets in college. He was also a big-time kick returner in the Big 12. I also think Brandon Smith is another guy who will fit this scheme well coming back from last year. He was kind of the wide receiver 4 and had a good second half of the season. The O-line is going to be the strength for Fred Keiss's offense yet again. 3 starters back up front, and those guys were super underrated last year. You look at that running attack, you give a lot of credit to Abram Smith, of course, but that offensive line, they were highlighted by some national outlets as far as some of the run blocking schemes that they had and they were able to execute. So the focus will really shift to who's going to tote the rock for DC. I think it's Cam Harris and Darius Higgins in week 1 with a little bit of a carry share. We'll see who emerges between those 2 guys, Harris, the returner, and Higgins, the newcomer out of Virginia State, where Reggie Barlow was a head coach for a long time. So they're going up against that Phillips 3-4, and it's the son of bum, Wade Phillips, back in a new color scheme after he just handed San Antonio 2 losses last season in this little Texas rivalry when he was with Houston. He becomes a Brahma, and listen, Wade Phillips is where God intended him to be, and that's coaching football in the state of Texas. It's always a great marriage there. His defensive coordinator, Brian Stewart, moves on to coach at Middle Tennessee. Congratulations to Coach Stewart for that job. So enter Will Reed, who's a longtime Wade Phillips disciple, and Reed has some things going for him. When you think about this, San Antonio's front 7, to me, is probably the second best in the league on paper behind DC. Of course, they have all XFL returnees across the board. Delonte Scott, Jordan Williams, and you throw in guys like Tavante Beckett and Tim Ward over from Houston, and then you have Kavion Patton, the big nose tackle up front. He was an all XFL guy with Orlando, so a scary front 7 in that 3-4 defense. But remember, DC got the better of Houston on Monday Night Football in 2023, and they put up a lot of points in the process. So some sour taste in the mouth of that Roughneck staff that night because they were coming in really strong to that game. I'm sure that Greg Williams matchup with A.J. Smith is going to be awesome. Overall, between the DC offense and the San Antonio defense, to me, it's a wash. I don't know about the DC offense yet. It's a great scheme. Jordan is fine. It's just going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders. He's probably going to be running around a lot. So if you like really all the rushing yard overs for the quarterbacks, I know sacks are tough. I wouldn't take it for McCarron and Perez, but for a guy like Ta'amu and a guy like Corral, I like the rushing yards over if they put the player props up or if you're looking at DFS as well. In the trenches, this will be a battle. DCO line, San Antonio D line, probably could give us game of the week type potential. one of these running backs or wide receivers is going to have to step up ultimately. For the DC defense, Greg is back. Greg Williams, baby, as his player Reggie Northrup would say, he's back, ready to kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer. That is the defender's mentality. And you can imagine this front seven might create some problems for A.J. Smith and those San Antonio Brahmas and his new quarterback, who I'm shocked isn't Quentin Dormady. Chase Garber's getting the start. And if you look up California quarterback in the dictionary, you're going to see a picture of Chase Garber's. He looks the part of a Cali kid. And he got high praise from his offensive coordinator, actually comparing his skill set to P.J. Walker. P.J. Walker. You guys remember him? That's our savior. We loved watching P.J. back in 2020. That's the guy. So high praise, and I don't know. That's like to me saying Caleb Williams is Pat Mahomes. We don't know yet. Pump the brakes on that comparison. But hey, nobody knows these quarterbacks like A.J. Smith, right? That's a guy who knows his quarterbacks well. I'm looking forward to the GTFO play calls coming back, especially on Easter Sunday. I mean, can you imagine you get home from church on Easter Sunday and A.J. Smith's up in the booth in a spring football game? You're probably thinking you're going to turn on bowling on a Sunday on ESPN in March. Instead, you get A.J. Smith, GTFO. I got the over 2.5 on the GTFO play calls. A lot of people will say that Greg Williams' play calling and how aggressive it is might have cost DC a championship last year. Let me be clear. I'm not one of those people. I think you got to be aggressive. We just heard Briley Moore say Greg's throwing looks at them and that they don't even recognize. So he will do things. A.J. McCarron has told us he likes to disguise coverage and play mind games. And you know how Greg Williams is. Like, he's not messing around coming into this one. And this is a big-time matchup. So DC returns 10 starters on defense. They add XFL sack leader Trent Harris as the 11th. Tim Ward got cut from this team, guys. Tim Ward got cut and picked up by San Antonio the next day. That shows you how loaded this defense is. Chase Garbers, man. He's going to have to run for his life. I don't think San Antonio's offensive line can match up with DC's front seven. And if they have any chance of pulling this upset, it's going to have to be Chase Garbers, because I don't know how much time he's going to have to throw the ball. He's going to have to run it sometimes. I've been impressed with San Antonio's upgrades at the skill positions. Really sneaky running back room here. I think John Lovett is probably the best back they have. He was with Vegas last year, was huge on him as a guy you can use in the pass game. The leap that he's going to take with A.J. Smith's scheme is going to be amazing as a kind of an out-of-the-backfield receiver. They also got Bryson Allen over from Houston and Anthony McFarland, who's no stranger to the black and yellow. He was a Pittsburgh Steeler the last 4 seasons. A mega-talented wide receiver room. I mean, you got Jontre Kirkland back after his season was cut short. In Kirkland, you have basically Justin Jefferson Jr. I mean, he is essentially the Justin Jefferson of the UFL. He played with JJ at LSU, and he learned a lot, including that gritty. And he could throw the ball. We saw him throw a touchdown pass last year before he got hurt. So watch out for those A.J. Smith wrinkles. Marquez Stevenson, K.D. Cannon, deep threats. If Garbers can put it on the money, Stevenson and Cannon might be the fastest 2 receivers in the UFL. They're that scary. And you top it off with Cody Latimer, who is the best tight end in spring football, no questions asked. I'm still going to give the edge to that DC defense here. And it's because the pass rush could eliminate all those options for Garbers that I just talked about. He could be under duress all day. I don't trust this offensive line for San Antonio. And DC at times struggled with the pass last year. We know they, I think, ended up the worst pass defense in the league. And that's what you're going to get when you have that kind of aggressive scheme, when you're rushing 7 a lot, playing cover 0 and blitzing a ton. But they did retool the secondary. 2 former first-round draft picks. How does Von Hutchins do this? He got Garyon Conley and DeAndre Baker. You add him to Mike Joseph, I think the secondary will be okay. DC in a close one. This one reminds me of week 1 against Seattle last season, but it's on the road this time. From a betting perspective, it's a high total. I kind of lean the under. Zook, you know me. I'm not going to bet the under because there is some bias involved here. I don't want to get to a point where DC needs a winning touchdown and it's going to lose me a bet. So we're going to stay off the under. Take it if you're not a DC fan. I think the defense could be good in this. I don't even want to know here, Zook. Yeah.
Here we are.
I might not have seen Arlington coming. I thought you were going to go Renegades earlier in the show, but I know you're going here. This is just setting itself up too nicely for you.
San Antonio. Hey, I think they are the most improved over last year for the XFL.
I hope so.
I mean, they just upgrading coaches.
I'll miss Hines Ward, but like, not the best for like the first year guys.
So my question to you is, did Arlington create a blueprint on how to beat DC?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so because when Luis Perez was in that Player 54 documentary drawing the play on the hotel window with a dry erase marker, I don't know. To me, Luis Perez is just like, I don't think he sleeps. I really don't. AJ Smith, though, he's another one of those like cerebral football guys. I just think, and from some of the reports that I've heard in practices and scrimmages, San Antonio has a long way to go to install this offense. It's a hard offense to run, this air raid. There's only a couple plays, but it seems to me like the teams that run the ball out of the gate might be better.
Right. I don't know. I feel like DC's
talking you into it now, huh?
No, not at all. DC missing Abram Smith is just too much. I don't think their read option game is going to be as good. I don't think their run game is going to be as good. And that's all they did was lean on that last year.
It scares me with Jordan how many carries he's going to need to take.
Right. The threat of the run really opened up that offense for those guys like Lucky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And DC was also the beneficiary of a lot of missed tackles last year.
Right.
Hopefully that's cleaner. So I'm taking San Antonio.
Yeah, the defense is no joke. I think this will be something like a 24-18 DC. I think a couple of points here or there.